Hi, it's me, your Martin from VIGOR. If you're watching this video, you're probably having trouble with a Ford Transit in your workshop right now. I want to show you a solution for how we work on the front axle of the Ford Transit. This way, we can professionally replace both the wheel bearing and the brakes without any hassle. The problem we have here is that the brake disc is screwed onto the hub from the inside. You know this from working in the shop. Everyone has already struggled with it until you finally get the whole thing off the car. Most of the time you end up damaging the wheel bearing. Then you have to put in a new one, do the brakes, and it gets expensive and takes forever. With the tool, we can separate the wheel bearing from the hub before 2013. After 2013, we can remove the whole assembly from the car without damage and also replace the brakes there. Let's take a look at how this looks on a Transit before 2013. Since this is a tool demonstration video, let's really put the tool to work. I'll get my fingers moving and make a bit of space here. Let's get started. Here we can already see the little beast. Here we have the hub and here is the brake disc. The screws for the brake disc are there and we can loosen them, but we can't actually get the disc off. It's attached from the inside. We need to remove the hub. So caliper off, drive shaft out. We've got a tool for that. If it's stuck, we can press it out. Unhook the ball joint from the steering, unclip it, quick and easy, done. You should really pay close attention. It truly looks like I'm working in fast forward. That's 10 long years of dedicated training. And today, I am this incredibly fast in real time. Ayo. And here we already have the first problem. The drive shaft is stuck in the hub. It won't budge. If we hit it, we'll damage the thread. So of course we won't do that. We've got the solution. From professionals for professionals, we screw the bridge on here using the supplied nuts. Now we'll use our hydraulic tool here. Then we press the whole thing with 32 tons of force, and we can even boost it with some impact. It doesn't stand a chance. I know it. And here we've just been calling it Little Cutie internally, so it can handle 32 tons. It has the correct and appropriate thread at the back to securely screw it onto the bridge here. Now, we carefully screw it into the thread until it firmly rests against the drive shaft. The hydraulic tool will be attached here in just a moment. And back here, we can still screw on the cap. That makes it impact resistant. If we need to increase the force even more, when we press in a moment, we can also hit it with a hammer here. We've now set the whole thing up. We're not pushing the shaft all the way out, just loosening it. Everything is still assembled, otherwise we'd be pushing it into the gearbox. And there we have it. Now let's proceed to disassemble. Now we can gently push it out with our thumb. The ball joint separator, you know that one. We even have a separate video about it. And to be honest, all the tools are great, but this one is my absolute favorite. What a time saver, no struggling, no hammering away at it. You can see, it's not just spruced up for the video, I've been using it in the workshop for many years. This is my absolute favorite tool when it comes to ball joints. Now we'll attach the steering knuckle depressor, and that gives me plenty of space here as well. Now I have room to take out the drive shaft. I've now put a bit of tension on everything down here. That will pull the arm down for me in a moment. And now I can press out the ball joint down there. Are you ready, guys? Let's go. Let's... Keep going. Give me your shaft! Alright, now things are starting to get serious, friends. I've unhooked it so I can get the shaft out. Now we're at the point where we need to loosen the bolts from the bolted wheel bearing. We can reach them through these holes with a long T50 Torx. We only unscrew the bolts 4 turns. We just want to loosen everything, and above all, we want the wheel bearing to stay intact. Because we only want to change the brake, not the wheel bearing. So I've loosened the bolts, and the wheel bearing behind it looks exactly like this. I've got a new one here. And that's how the bolts sit in there. If I now loosen the bolts a bit through the holes, they sit just a little bit away from it. And now I can use the tool to brace myself on the bolts and pull the wheel bearing out of the housing. It's a tricky subject, I know that myself. This is what it looks like now. With these rods here, I can go through the holes directly onto the bolts. So we've positioned it from the back. The large pressure piece, we want to press over the outer body of the wheel bearing, so we have the large diameter. On it goes. That's quite a powerful hydraulic cylinder. It's obvious that it has some weight to it. We're sitting on the bolts. We've unscrewed the bolts a bit. Inside, with the large plate on the outer edge of the wheel bearing. No force on the rolling elements, just as it should be. Dream Team friends, is everyone ready? The first few millimeters have already come out. Now we'll turn the bolts out a bit further, then onto the watt. There we go. Here we have the assembly. The brake with the hub and the wheel bearing inside here. The whole thing has stayed intact. We pressed it out cleanly over the outer ring. We can reuse the wheel bearing. Now we can loosen the brake disc screws at the front here, take off the disc, put on a new one, and put the whole thing back on the car. And the customer gets new brakes, but not a new wheel bearing. That's the advantage. With this tool, the wheel bearing stays intact. We don't need a new one. You just saw how we can get the whole thing out of here without damaging the wheel bearing, for example, to replace the brake disc. Now I'll show you how we upgrade everything when we replace the wheel bearing. We don't have to be quite as careful since we're going to replace it anyway. So we can be a bit rougher with it. I've screwed everything back together here. The bolts are tight. Now the tool goes on. We've also equipped our large hydraulic cylinder with the spindle again. Again, we're using our pressure piece. We're going back onto the stud heads. In this particular case, the bolts simply remain securely in their original position, not becoming loosened at all. Now comes the significant and crucial difference. We carefully use the small pressure piece inside on the hub, then gently put the nut on and subsequently pull the entire assembly off. I've set up the hydraulics again. Now we go through the holes with the pressure pieces onto the bolts. But they stay screwed in. We don't even loosen them, just go through the hub with the spindle and then with the smaller pressure piece onto the inner core of the wheel bearing. Because now we're pulling the hub off the wheel bearing. The wheel bearing can stay on the car. Honestly, it can break because we're going to replace it anyway with a new one. I'll show you how the whole thing comes apart. And here we truly have it indeed. The wheel bearing has split. One inner core stayed on the hub, the rest remains in the car. Take a look here, you can see it clearly. We went onto the central hub with the inner core and then pressed firmly against it with the securing nut here. One inner core stays on and I'm going to get that off now. To get this off the car now, we've got the big cup with us. It will sit here later, right over it. We'll use the large pressure piece because we want to go over the outer ring. After all, we want to get it completely out. In the end, it will look like this. We place this over it here. Put the ring on from the inside, hydraulic press with spindle on top, and out it comes. Large pressure piece. This is now half of it. Yes, we got it. Here we have the wheel bearing. That means we're done with the disassembly work. Now everything be put back together and reattached to the car, and we have a second transit day ahead of us. I'm already sweating a bit, so I'll dab myself off quickly, then we'll continue. Dabbed off once, had a fresh sip of water, and I've already screwed the wheel bearing back on. Put it back on with the 5 screws. the new wheel bearing in this case. And what I've also already done is quickly screw the brake disc back on here. And now we can press the whole thing back onto the car. We'll do that with the hydraulic as well. You're watching me. .4849, here we have the large circular plate at the back once again, so we're grabbing the outer ring of this component again. Now we've set up the cylinder. With a pressure piece, the large plate at the back with the flat side facing the bearing, and of course the nut screwed onto the spindle. And now we're pulling the hub into the wheel bearing, supporting ourselves on the inner core of the wheel bearing so that once again, no force is applied through the rolling elements. That means nothing gets damaged during installation. That's how quick it can be. Now we just need to remove the tool again. And then the drive shaft goes in. Tighten everything up using the proper torque. And we're ready for the test drive. The front axle on the Transit after 2013 mainly differs in that we can't separate the wheel bearing from the hub. It's all one piece here, meaning it's the wheel bearing. If it's shot, you have to replace the whole assembly here. Of course, without the brake disc, that's obvious. But we also have a solution for that with our tool, so we can remove the whole thing, for example, to replace the brake disc without damaging the wheel bearing. Again, never apply force through the rolling elements. And we achieve that by modifying the tool. We go onto the outer ring, can insert the whole thing here through the holes, and again support ourselves on the bolts. And now we can also press off the hub here, swap out the disc, and reinstall everything in the car without causing any damage. If we have the Ford Transit with rear-wheel drive, that is, we don't have a drive shaft at the front and therefore no hole where we could use the press, so we still have the claw, which we can screw on. And then we can use the slide hammer here and pull the whole thing off the car with plenty of force. That works well too, as I said, for the Transit with rear-wheel drive. You saw it, that's how easy it can be with a powerful hydraulic system and the right tools. We can remove and reinstall the wheel bearings from the car without damaging them. The brakes have been replaced. We didn't have to ruin a wheel bearing in the process. That's a good thing. Glad if you enjoyed it. I'd appreciate a thumbs up. I'd be happy if you check out what we're up to on Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see each other next time on YouTube. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Yours, Martin.